So the way this presentation works is I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my background, and then I move this little square, and then I'm going to explain a little bit about my business and what I do. Then I'm going to teach you all the information that I promised you, this 5-step method to getting started using Zoom to teach yoga. And then at the end, we'll take some questions if we have time. So I started out producing video when I was in college. There's a picture of me with a whole bunch of equipment that cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars back in the 80s. I produced a television show called Creative Television that was distributed in New Orleans public broadcast system. The show was a creative show, which meant that I could wire up microphones, set up lights, edit, script, use like every piece of equipment that you see in that deck. I actually really wanted to go into television production at the time, but as you're learning with the Harvey Weinstein case, there's a lot of issues for women in media, and I figured that out by the time I spent 3 years doing it and decided I didn't want to go into it as a career. After I got out of college, instead of going into television production, I went into engineering, where I worked as a technical writer and then later as an e-learning developer. My job was basically to speak English and to speak engineering and bridge that divide. I did a lot of things between those two things. I was the person who always had to think about the person who was actually using the equipment. How would they feel about this? How would they use it? Rather than the way the engineers and the software developers thought about it, which is like, they freaking love tech. That's what they do for a living. But when you're talking about nurses in an operating room, or you're talking about people who work in courtrooms, they don't necessarily love software. They love their jobs, and they just want their software or their hardware to help them actually get their job done. So I always have this point of view from who the person is using the technology, and I have a lot of compassion for it. We won't be able to get into a lot of specifics about your own equipment in this webinar because I just don't have time. However, one of the things that I can do for you is to help you figure out your own stuff, because I'm really good at figuring stuff out. I ended up, after writing manuals going into e-learning development, when I developed e-learning for Zebra Technologies, I ended up producing a lot of videos. So I finally actually got to do what I dreamed of years before when I was in college. I produced professional videos that were used in learning programs that were used by the sales team to help understand the products that they were selling. They were barcode scanning products, and barcode scanning is not like the most sexy engineering area in the world. So in order to make this information, like why the little dots blink at a certain rate, more interesting, what we would do is we would often put the developers to develop the products on camera to explain it. So here in this video, I'm going to show you the developer of this product, the PD40. His name's Jeff Weissman. He's a great guy.
We've worked hard to develop a device that has a simple function to accept EMV credit and debit cards, as well as to continue to accept MSR credit and debit cards. The PD40 has many software and hardware features that help keep card information secure. Recently, I presented the PD40 at the NRF trade show. We received tremendous interest from the people who attended. We think your customers will also be excited by the capabilities.
Okay, so I think you saw enough of that to see. I want to explain the setup. We had a professional camera operator. I was there coaching his performance. We had a beautiful set with all the patent awards in the background and a lovely plant. We had professional editing. This was his best take, and it's quite clear that he is reading. The most important part of a video is the performance, and we're going to talk all about that quite a bit. What I'm going to be showing you is how to simplify your setup so that once you figure it out, then you can focus more on the part that actually makes a difference, which is the performance. Of course, if your equipment's like really, doing something weird or you can't rely on it, then that's also going to be a problem for your recording. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you today.
The device.
I added the slide in. Normally when I teach this, I don't talk about my yoga background. I'm a longtime yoga teacher. I've been studying yoga for 30 years. I've taught for 20 years. I'm one of the only yoga teachers who is authorized to teach Eric Schiffman's teacher training materials. I was personally mentored by him. I ran his discussion board, The Yoga, the Spirit and Practice of Moving into Stillness is this book. I ran the discussion board Moving into Stillness for yoga teachers for about 15 years. We had over 2 million hits on the last version of the software, and probably on the previous version of the software around that same number of views. We've had literally thousands of posts from yoga teachers all over the world. I'm a teacher who has just a very unusual perspective on the yoga world because I've taught with yoga teachers all over the planet, literally on every continent except for Antarctica. I run advanced teacher training programs. I'll be running one here shortly in the next few months. I'll be running one in Wilmington, North Carolina in the fall. I help people with 2 areas. One is I provide business mentorship because I found that yoga teachers know that they need small businesses in order to make a living at yoga, but they don't really know how to run a business. And then the second part that I provide is teaching mentorship because I found that yoga teacher training programs don't actually teach people how to teach. They teach them how to copy the teacher or how to teach asana or meditation, but they don't teach people how to assess whether their students are learning. They don't teach teachers how to build a curriculum, how to design a class so that it's effective. And so teachers come out feeling very not confident about their ability to teach and help people, especially when they're new. So those are the areas that I focused on in my teaching. My business is called Get a Bigger Boat. It's based on this scene in Jaws where the giant shark shows up for the first time and the police chief stumbles back and says, you're going to need a bigger boat. I love this thought that instead of turning tail and running away or shutting down the beaches for the summer, that what they need to do is get more resources when they're facing a problem that's too big to handle. I want people to consider getting the appropriate resources for their problems because I saw yoga teachers in the discussion boards seeking out information about marketing from other yoga teachers, seeking out legal information from other yoga teachers. And if only we had been talking to a lawyer, to a marketing expert, we might have actually gotten some real answers instead of feeling so defeated. So anytime that you feel defeated in your business, I encourage you to find someone who has the answers, who can talk to you. I teach people how to develop learning ladders, which means curriculum, based on professional learning design. Knowledge is innate, but learning is a struggle. So if you think back to learning to read, there was this, you were maybe learning how a book works at first, get with your word book. And then eventually maybe you became more advanced where you could sound out every letter. Like I know Jennifer's son is, a little older, but I bet you remember those days where you'd sit there and be like, just please finish reading this book. It's so slow. And you can tell that they don't quite connect all those sounds with the meaning. And then there's just this magical, magical day where the light bulb goes on and suddenly they're a reader and they can never look back. So one of the huge issues that I have with a 200-hour teacher training program is that learning is not measured by time, it's measured by learning outcomes. Can they read or not? If I had my first grader in school for the whole year and at the end of that year, they still couldn't read, they weren't a reader and they didn't succeed. That they spent all that time doesn't count. It doesn't, not to say it doesn't count for anything, but it's saying like, you don't measure somebody's learning by the hours that they spent in it. So we know the steps that people get to that light bulb moment. I help people to structure their curricula so that they can create a business where people stay with them because the learning is appropriately designed. I think when you promise people things that you can't deliver, that's when you lose your customers. Today's learning ladder is shown here. Everybody here has the ability to pay attention. We're all adults with full cognitive abilities. That isn't always a learning situation. And then everybody here is able to follow instructions to me. We've all used our phones to create a video, I assume. So we have some knowledge of how video production works, even if you haven't used Zoom before. And we also have some computer capabilities here. So my goal for you today is to move from already creating some videos on your own to starting to do it on your own with some skill. And my little goal for today is that you'll be able to teach at least one student using Zoom. My bigger goal is for you to incorporate video into your business long-term. This is a 5-step process. Now we're getting into the subject matter. It's a 5-step process. The first step in the process is to plan out what you're going to say or do. The second step is to set up your equipment. The third step is to dress up and become, turn into the star of the show, because you are the star of the show. That's the big message here. The fourth step is to record, and then the fifth step is to premiere your video and share it with people. The main piece that I want you to pay attention to, in addition to some of the tips about Zoom that I'll be giving, is this action piece. If there's one piece that you really pay attention to, it's that piece about what you do on camera. We start by learning by sharing people, telling people something that they already know so that they can relate to it. We are all little amateur photographers. We're all going around shooting things with our phone. My father happened to not be just an amateur photographer. He was a dynamite, amazing photographer, not professionally, but he was a very, very good amateur photographer. I actually have photos that my father took of trash cans that are absolutely stunningly beautiful. I can't do that, so what I do is I shoot pictures of pretty butterflies, flowers, people that I love, a sunset, a bridge. When you have a beautiful subject, it really doesn't matter that you're not the most skillful photographer in the world. So that's part of why when I get to that wardrobe section, I talk about that, because if you can make yourself the beautiful subject of the video, then it helps goes a long way toward making a good video when you lack certain other skills. The other piece is diffuse bright light. So how many of you have ever tried to take a picture of a gorgeous full moon? Can you unmute and tell me what happened when you did that, Jennifer?
Oh, it was just like a little dot.
And why was that?
I never really thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I just wish that people could see what I'm seeing.
Me too. So the reason is because cameras don't actually record the image in front of you, the world as it is. They record light. Cameras take quite a bit of light, and diffuse bright light is what you need to record a nice quality photo. So if you've ever gotten somebody in very harsh sunlight, even though you have, a strong light and a lot of light, you can end up with a lot of awkward shadows. So that's why you want the light to be diffuse. And you need a lot of light, and you need more light than you think you do. So certain kind of photographs just don't come out because there's not enough light. A camera's lens collects light, and that's really what you see. The other thing that we can do to affect an image is the composition. So wherever you place your camera, it can really have a lot. We'll talk about this a little later about how you see people doing their selfies like this and why they do that. doing your composition like that can affect the result of your camera, of your photograph. Sorry, I'm like super tired. Jennifer and I were talking really late, but it wasn't because of Jennifer. I was just up super late trying to get some things done. And so to this already knowledge that we know about photography, we're going to add 3 more elements, because video happens over time. So one element of a great video is nice pacing. You typically see a lot of very fast-paced videos. Nowadays, like the faster pace of video, the more people seem to love it, with all the quick cuts and all of that. Many of the YouTubers are pretty, like they do a lot of action, a lot of, their pace of their videos are very strong. Sometimes I think people feel like they have to be like that on camera to be successful. I was thinking about, wow, we all know this guy who was so successful on video, who had this lovely, even pace, Mr. Rogers. You think about his show is super successful, and he definitely wasn't an exciting, dynamic, crazy guy. Especially as yoga teachers, we don't need to be that, but what you do need is just to have an even pacing throughout the video. You also need a lot of movement. This is the piece that is very difficult for people to do on camera for a number of reasons. We'll talk about this more in the performance section. It goes against a lot of the rules of how we work conversationally. It is a skill you have to learn in order to be on camera. I'm going to show you how you evaluate how you're doing with that skill and how you get better with it over time. And then finally, you need to have consistent sound. If somebody were listening to your video on headset, you wouldn't want them to suddenly have this loud burst of noise. And also you wouldn't want to have sections where the sound dropped out so that people couldn't tell whether the recording was working or not. I'm going to assume there's no questions at this point, but you can hop in at any time. Okay, step 1 is to prepare by writing a script or notes. A lot of people, I worked with all these people behind camera. I showed you Jeff's video at the start. That was, I did a lot of that when I was working at Zebra. And what I found is that we often worked with people who were very articulate salespeople, people who often were promoting their products and could off the cuff give a little sales pitch or explanation of what they did. They would often come in thinking like, I can just sit down on camera and do my thing. But they would get down on camera and they would just start rambling. The reason that they did it is that there was no conversational cues. Like if I'm talking to you, I can look at you and see when your eyes are glazing over or whether you're interested, and I can change what I'm doing. Without those conversational cues, when you're just sitting to like an empty screen, it's very difficult to know what to say. It makes you feel awkward because you're talking to an empty room. And so people just start blabbing on and on and on. It's like they have diarrhea of the mouth. When you're on a webinar, it's like a Zoom video conference, you're less likely to do that because you do have an audience. Like we can all see each other. One of the lovely things about doing this as a beta recording is that I can kind of look at you and I can look at you in the pictures and see that you're engaged with me. And you can't do that when you're just doing a regular video. It's one of the advantages of working with Zoom and why I think it's a great way to get started using video. So when you write your script, I recommend that you script yourself or at least have bullet points if you're going to teach yoga class, even if you're the kind of person who normally walks into class, takes a look around the room and reads the energy and then you just do your thing. I recommend that you at first have at the very least a backup, a little list of what you're going to do, just so that with all the other things that you have to manage, you have something to come back to that you know you've prepared. It'll at the very least give you some confidence that you don't have to come up with it all. If you get lost, you have something to go back to, and it'll help you be stronger on camera. There's an old saying in public speaking, the old advice Tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you said. It's good teaching methodology. What it means is, and I'm doing it in this presentation. This is a very meta presentation where I teach about how you teach. I am doing a video about doing video. And so what you start by focusing their attention on the most important parts to listen to, because you're going to give them a lot of information. Tell them which pieces to focus on. Then you want to give them the information. And finally, as you wrap up, you want to point out what they learned and highlight the key points. Okay, I thought I might have a second slide on this. So I'm going to show you how I create my scripts for videos. I use an app. I'm going to take this off the share for a second. So I use an app called Evernote. It's free. I love Evernote. I want to marry Evernote. It's really, I use it all the time. It has this feature that is a speech-to-text transcription, and it's not 100% accurate, but it's quite good. And I'm turning on the speech-to-text transcription, and you can see that as I'm talking, it's transcribing almost in real time what I'm saying. It works very well. Once I'm done recording, I can open up this note on my computer and edit it with my full keyboard. And then I can edit the speech. So what I do is, remember how I said when people get on camera, they sort of start throwing up their words. So when you are writing your script, that's the time to do that. And the way I do it is, I kind of wait until inspiration strikes, like, oh, I'm going to make a presentation about getting started making videos. And then I just kind of have all these ideas in my head. And then one day it's like, oh, right. You know, like it all starts coming together. So I grab my phone, I turn on Evernote. And often this happens when I'm in the car, because that's when I'm always talking to my imaginary audience. And guys, I'm killing it. That imaginary audience, they're hanging on my every word. I'm so articulate, and as I go on for 2 hours about my subject, they're just wrapped in it with attention. And then I close it out, and I open up later on my computer, and I realize that, wow, no one wants to listen to that speech. And I edit it down. I take out all the excess uhs and ahs and ums, so that I take all the filler words out. I give it some structure, like when I was recording this one, I'm sure that I didn't say, oh, I'm going to teach you a 5-part method. Later, I looked back at it and I added those parts in to bring some structure to it. And then tell them what you're going to say it, and tell them what you said. After you've figured it all out and edited it, it's quite easy at the end to summarize what was said. And then what I do is I just copy and paste that up to the start of my script. And that becomes my intro. I fill it around a little bit to make it a little more introductory. Let me get back to my slides. Where is my control? Share. I just want to talk briefly about filler words. Filler words play an important role in conversation. They help us to save our place as we're talking. It shows people that we have the floor. When you're on video, you have the floor and nobody's going to take the floor from you. The filler words become annoying on recorded video. When you're speaking in a webinar, you don't have to worry about it so much because it is a more conversational format. But still, I think it's nice to have those fewer filler words, because if you're recording it and you're sharing it, they do start to become annoying on the recording. So, oh, I did have another slide on this. I knew I did. Here's the slide about the Evernote. All right. The next step, so the main thing of the first part is have a script, or at the very least some bullet points, or prepare what you're going to do in advance. And I mean, actually practice it in front of the camera, maybe, to see what that feels like. The second part is to set up your technology. The first piece of that is light. As we talked about, cameras record light. They also record the play of light, which is why you need movement. There's some easy ways to create a lot of light without getting professional lighting setups. First thing is to keep your computer plugged in, because when your computer starts to, if you're using your computer or your phone, because as they start to lose power, one of the things that really uses up the power is the brightness of the screen. So when it's not plugged in, after a little while, as it drains the power, the screen will start to dim. That backlight actually gives you a little bit of nice diffuse lighting, and so I recommend to keep your device plugged in. Also, that means it won't drain and you'll be able to record without your phone dying or your computer dying in the middle of it. You want diffuse light, not directly pointing at your face. Let's see if I can show you here that can I do that? Yeah, you see I have some diffuse light right here in my setup. You want to, so you can do one of the easy ways to do that is just go to Target, get a little crook neck lamp, and bounce that light off the wall behind you. That's great for this kind of setup, which is what I typically teach. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to show you more about light in a second. We're going to do some demos. So this, right now, I have the lights that I never use when I teach yoga, which is the bright fluorescent lights. I'm going to show you the difference these make and give you some demos. The other thing is that you can shoot outside in natural light. You just want to do it when the light's more diffuse and dim. The best time to record is right about an hour before sunset. They call it the golden hour. I live near a historic landmark, and every day when I go by there, there's a photographer shooting a bride right as the sun's setting to get that beautiful golden hour light. Okay, so let me show you some actual samples, yes, here we go. So I'm going to show you a couple of different lighting setups for me. I'm in my studio, and I'm going to show you how the light's affected. So I talked about being prepared. I practiced this before. I can tell you if I had done an unprepared, this whole section would take me like 15 minutes to teach. So this is as I said, these are the lights that I have going on right now, just my overhead fluorescent ugly lights that I normally can't stand. But look how nice they are for video. Let's see if you can see my mat now. And so here I'm able to, you can hear my voice, even though I'm fairly far away, the sound isn't as good, but it's still quite good for no extra microphone. And you can see that the light is diffuse, and you can see me here. I'm going to show you a different lighting setup, which might be nice if you're recording with people in the room, but also trying to get something for people at home. So I'm just switching the lights around for you. Okay, so now I have the lights that I normally use for teaching yoga, the string lights that are overhead that provide a soft, diffuse light. And you're also seeing what I normally keep set up in my room, these lights that are stronger, directed lights that are in front of the camera. And my candles, which you see have become much more prominent in the picture. If I were recording, I would likely turn my candles off in this case, because I think they take attention away from me as the subject of the video. And I think I would probably turn them off just so that they were more decorative. I want to show you what happens with these strong overhead lights, and then show you the difference without them. So we have this overhead light, and right now I'm standing underneath these stronger lights, and you can see that I'm pretty much completely in shadow. The reason that's happening is that These automatic cameras that are used in phones and laptops have an iris that controls the amount of light that goes in, and that iris is automatically set to respond to the amount of light. So if you go outside and it's a very bright day, it's going to close the iris down and let less light in to the lens. If you are standing in front of very bright lights, it's going to close the iris down and let less light in and darken your overall image. So let me show you what happens when I turn these bright lights off. I'm just talking about being prepared. Last night, I didn't have those chairs there, and it took me like, a minute to grab the chair and set it all up. So today, since I'd run this workshop before, I set the chairs up so I could just quickly do that. So now I'm back in the same place, but you can see that although it's not as well lit as it was before, this actually wouldn't be a terrible image to have, especially if you have people in the room. And that I still have a fair amount of light, so it's a nice atmosphere. So just wanted to show you the difference between different lights and just to take a look how you evaluate your lighting setup. But generally, I would say the big rule with light is you need more than you would normally need.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, for sure.
What if so my studio has like a full set of windows on one end, full set of windows on the other end.
Okay.
In that case, what would be the best situation not to have that back? Like I normally teach with my back against the windows.
So you're going to end up being backlit. Have you ever taken a photograph like that where you were like, the people were directly in front of the sun?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's going to happen. I would recommend to get some curtains.
Okay.
Yeah. And you don't have to, you just close them when you're recording video.
Yeah.
It's very popular now on YouTube to have people with like a screen where there's a light behind them. And if you're like, I was taught that when you're shooting, like say, one of the reasons that a lot of newscasters are blonde is that they'll like backlight the hair and then it sort of glows. So like blondes look really good on camera and they like to light them up like that. So having some backlighting isn't really a problem. It's when it's very strong. So if you can just filter it out a little bit, it might be beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me find my slide deck again. The next piece is the camera setup. The main thing is that you want to minimize movement on your camera. Movement is a great part of video, but you don't really want the movement on your camera because you'll make people throw up. The stabilizing equipment to do that has become much cheaper. There are selfie sticks that have gyroscopes on them. They're quite affordable now. They used to be very expensive equipment. However, for now, I would recommend not to play around with those things and see them as maybe a next step if you're interested in adding some movement on the camera. I recommend to keep your equipment still. I'm going to show you, what, I turned off the light, so let me just switch that overhead light up so that I can have my light for the recording. And then I'm going to show you guys the setup I'm doing right now while I'm recording. Let me stop the share for a second. Okay, so here I am in my office. Normally I sit behind that desk, but today I'm recording from this side of the camera. And you'll see my setup for recording is that I have this lap desk on top of my desk, and that's to bring my camera up to my eye height. The reason that I want my camera up at my eye height, I bet we all know that. Can you hear me?
It's kind of breaking in and out. It's muted now.
Yeah, the same with me. It's breaking in and out.
So we'll talk about this a little later about Murphy's Law, but you can definitely expect things to go wrong. Here I am, I've delivered this presentation, I don't know how many times. I've been using video conference software forever, and yet still my microphone's going to go out in the middle. It's good to practice with your equipment and be aware of these kind of things so that you can fix them quickly and not be thrown off in your performance. And I would expect that you would be over time. So I don't know, I also saw chat coming up. Oh, thank you. Okay. So I have a different microphone plugged in right now. So anyway, so we were talking about the height of your camera. The camera, generally you want it at least at eye height or higher. We talked about this at the start about people doing their selfies like this. Do you know why people do those selfies? You've seen people do that, why they do that? Jennifer?
Better angle, lighting.
Yeah, better
I
angle.
mean, that's what I do it for.
Yes, exactly. It's a more flattering angle. What happens when you have your camera down like this?
Double chin.
Double chin. So what's happening is that you're, this is the whole thing. You think you're recording like the world as it actually is, but you're just recording an image. You're recording light. And so what's happening is that when your camera is closer to your face, so to your eyes like this, the eyes look bigger and what's away from you recedes away. So your chin looks narrower. Everybody likes that picture. But then when you do it the other way, your chin, you get the double chin and your eyes look small, which isn't, considered pretty. And sometimes you can just be like looking up someone's nose, which I think is not the best image either. So you want to have it at least at eye height because it's more flattering for you and it makes you feel more comfortable on camera. I want to show you specifically for the recording, what I did for recording here. So this is, when you walk into my office, you see there's a door, and then you come over here and there's a bookshelf that's for people to put their equipment on, their shoes and things like that on. So that's what I placed my camera, my laptop on for recording this view. And you see that it's now at my eye height. And then when I back away, that still gives me a nice, that nice image, rather than like placing it on the floor and shooting up, which would just be less flattering. Could have make me look like a pinhead or something. You'd be surprised at professional videos how much stuff is kind of MacGyvered underneath all the equipment. Okay, let me get back to the deck. Okay, so you're gonna make sure that you have a stand. If you're using your phone, you're gonna have your notes open, hopefully if you have your notes on your screen when you're recording or printed out. But what I do with my phone often is I'll have my notes up on my computer. If you do Facebook Lives, it works better for some reason on phones than it does on laptops. So I've had to go in on Facebook Lives on my phone, and then I'll have my notes on the computer. And I'll just take one of those chip clips that are really strong and I'll clip it to my laptop back, and that's how I'll support it. But you can do anything, just you want to keep it level and have it supported and not be holding it in your hand while you're recording. Your microphone, you're going to be using the internal microphone. As you heard, my microphone, I have this other microphone set up right now because who knows what was going on with my mic. It's probably a driver. But you heard the sound from my laptop is quite good, even at a distance. The way I figured that out is I did some test recordings. I had one of the people that took this last night sent me a copy of her video today that she took last night. It looked great, but she was taking it on a phone like this and she was pretty far away, and so the sound was quite dim. And you want to test before you do a big recording. Do some test recordings to sort of figure out like where does the sound start to get overdriven when you're really close, And then where does the sound start to fade away when it's too far away? It's the distance is the most important thing with microphones in general. If you're using your if you're using your laptop, you might get some feedback, and the way around that is to use headphones. You would need, while you're teaching yoga, to wear the wireless headphones. One thing about sound, we as humans, we pay attention to the sounds that are we're focused on, and we tune out background sounds. Often when I teach this class, I'm in a room where there's another class going on or something, and we have noise going on around us that we're completely unaware of. But what happens when the recordings is that that noise is there and it's being recorded, and it's more noticeable on the recording. It's harder to tune it out. The two common background noises that show up on recordings are air conditioning and heating systems and pets. And maybe also could be like road noises or children. Could be another source of fun sounds. But the air conditioning systems, in fact, I was listening the people at Project Runway, when they do the runway shows, they actually turn all the air conditioning systems off while they're doing that recording. It takes them a whole day to shoot that portion of the show, and they sit there just sweating under those bright lights while they're recording it. So that's how a professional shoot works. And so just while you're recording your video, if you have a noisy air conditioning system, you might want to turn it off while you're recording. The other thing is pets. People love seeing pets on your videos. Definitely if your dog or cat comes in, everybody likes to see that. The problem with a pet is they can take you off of your performance if they're really getting annoying. And then also, like if you hear, say, a dog barking in the background, that starts to get annoying too. So I recommend to feed your pets before you start recording, or have somebody take them out for a walk, or I've had friends who have had toys with them and they're throwing the squeaky toys, and it's better to listen to a pet playing with the squeaky toy than it is to listen to a pet barking and annoying you and scratching you. So the big thing is make sure that your sound is at the right distance from you is the most important part. Let's talk about how you set up Zoom. I'm going to show you some screen captures from Zoom on the next couple of slides. But you're going to start out by just scheduling a new meeting in Zoom, entering the topic, and choosing the date and time. You're going to keep every other default on, but there's a couple that I'm going to recommend that you change. One is, I would recommend, if you're working with people like on a private webinar, where, like a private Zoom, and it's just the two of you, go ahead and check to keep the participant video on as soon as they come on. That way you just don't have to show them how to turn their camera on, because it's just one less setting for them to mess with. A lot of people do not feel comfortable being recorded, and you shouldn't assume that they want to be recorded. If you have a bigger group that's coming in, then I would recommend to keep it off. If you're, if you're doing a recording and you don't know that everybody feels comfortable having their face on camera. And for the meeting options, I would choose that you record it automatically. That way you won't forget to record it. These are some screen shares, so I'm going to use the annotation feature, which I don't use a whole lot. Let's see if I can pick a color. Last night here. It's nice. Okay. So this is, when you go into Zoom, this is the main menu down on the side. And you're going to pick meetings to set up a meeting, and then choose this button, schedule a new meeting. Then under topic, you'll fill in your meeting title. That's just the, whatever, like this one's called like Get Started Creating, Teaching Yoga by Zoom. That's where I filled that topic in. Skip the description, don't worry about that, it's not required. And then you're gonna put in the time that you're gonna do it, the date and time. I screwed this up yesterday because it was actually today when I created this. It was past midnight. So I was looking at my computer and it said it was 3:12. So I set it for 3:13. You can go back and edit this, which is what I did do today. But this is what tells people what time the call is. The duration really doesn't matter because it just basically is there to tell people how long it is. When you shoot them a whole long invitation, which I recommend you not do, it makes sense when you have a big group of people and there are people coming in from other countries and they need all the dial-in information for what happens if you're in Namibia and you're going to dial in from an international number, but you don't need that. You just need to give people the link. So the duration, I just leave it at an hour, unless, you know, and it won't stop you. Like if you set the duration for an hour, you go over 30 minutes, it'll let you go over it. It doesn't prevent you from recording longer than an hour. Okay, for some reason it's giving me an error message about my system quality. Hang on one second. Okay. Let me know if you're having problems hearing me. It's saying it's affecting my audio quality. So this is where I was talking the settings for video right here. Oops. Okay, so video here. This is what's going on here. Oh. Okay. So please let me do this. Okay. So the host video is by default on, that's you. And then this is the one I recommended to change. Normally it's set to off, but for your first ones, I would just recommend go ahead and turn it to on. It's just one less thing for people to deal with. If you forget and you leave it off, all it means is you have to show them how to turn on their camera. Learning how to use this Telestrator feature. This is the second part of the page. I wasn't able to get a screenshot of the entire page. So we were just looking at these settings here under video. These were the ones that we were just talking about. And then you just leave the audio settings. Here is how the defaults. If you click enable join before host, what it does is it lets the participant join before you. You can choose whether or not you want to do that. They can start the video conference call without you, but I would just leave it checked off. And then these other things, don't worry about it. This piece is the one you want to set up and make sure is set up, record the meeting automatically. I recommend to do it on the local computer. That way you own the recording and you can find it on your computer. There is a cloud setting, and with the free version, you can record for up to 40 minutes for free. So I recommend go ahead and get an account and try it out and play around with it. You can run a meeting for up to 40 minutes for free. After 40 minutes, you have to get the paid version. I think actually it'll let you go a little bit longer from people who've tried it, as I recall. But anyway, it's supposed to be 40 minutes. So if you record it on your local computer, you own the recording and you don't have to worry about trying to download it from their cloud. Any questions about all of these settings? Okay. Oh yeah, payment. How do you get payment? If you want to make people pay, just do what I did. Go to paypal.me and create a paypal.me account with your PayPal. All it is you just link it to your PayPal account. And then what you do is it gives you your own unique identity. Mine is Suzanne Doolin. And so you can send people a link to pay. And it's like basically just sitting on like, here's the link to pay. So the way you do it is you shoot it, it's paypal.me/ the name that you created. So in my case, Suzanne Doolin. And then if you want to give them a specific amount, you just do / that amount. So when one of the reasons I had you pay this way is to show you that, yes, you can purchase the version where you pay, that's like $50 a month, or you can just do what everybody knows how to use, PayPal, shoot them this link and have them pay. And guess what? It works just as well and nobody really cares. Yes, that's useful when you're teaching 200 people. When you're teaching 5 people, this works great and you don't have to pay up for a bunch of features that you aren't going to use regularly. So you just write in paypal.me/your name/ the amount that you want them to pay. And you shoot them that link, they click it, and they pay with PayPal. So after they pay, then what you're going to do is you're going to go back up to, I'm going to show you. Okay, so after you create your meeting, this is what it looks like in your My Meetings. It says, it shows the meeting. This is what it looks like to me for the meeting for today. Here under invite attendees, it has the join link. So all you're going to do is after they pay, you're just going to go and copy this link out and shoot it to them by email or messenger, however, and they'll have the join link. Any questions about payment? Okay. I want to just double check the time, make sure I'm keeping you on schedule. So we have 10 more minutes and we're on track. I just want to let you know that I do watch the time for you to make sure that you can relax and pay attention, and I'll make sure that we end by 4. So you want to be you are the subject of the video, and I recommend to be a beautiful butterfly. When I dress for being on video, I always wear something colorful. I wear lots of makeup. I'm super pale. All these lights wash me out. Also useful to wear powder if you tend to be oily, because all of those lights are going to bounce off you. I don't have any bald people here, but if you're bald, you powder up the bald spot. I know it's embarrassing to powder your bald spot, but it's less embarrassing than having a big shiny glary bald spot on the video the whole time. So you want to be the beautiful butterfly, the subject of the video. You are the subject. You should dress that way to be a star, because you all are stars. The other reason to do this is for the same reason you always dress nice for a job interview. It makes you feel more confident. Just as we're looking right now at our images, I can see my own image on the screen, and I'm looking at it the whole time I'm recording. I've worked with people who weren't aware that they would be looking at their image while they were recording, and they told me later, I wish you told me that, because I didn't do my hair and makeup, and I felt so dowdy, and I kept looking at my image, and it made me feel like, oh man, I just wish I put a little lipstick on. So I recommend, this is a piece of the recording that you can have total control of, dominate it. Also on video, goofy things work well. Man, if you show up on video as I had this woman today tell me that people think that all the yoga teachers are like hippy dippy purple people. Man, if you show up on your YouTube channel as the hippy dippy purple people, that will fly. Like, do the cheesy thing on video. It rocks. The stuff that you think is way over the top in real life, it goes over very, very well on video. And one way when you don't have a lot of camera experience is to kind of have a shtick. So anyway, just think about it. I know it sounds stupid, but you know, it works on video, trust me. Okay, so here's how you're gonna run so anyway, the main point of that is like, be the beautiful butterfly, be the subject. Notice that you're the subject of the recording, and you know, show up for it. Let's talk about the action piece now. This is the main part. This is the piece you should be paying attention to the most as far as recording a video. You want to have your script or your little bullet points open. I've worked with people reading literal scripts before, and I've worked with people reading bullet points. Different things work for different people. As you saw with that first video, you could see it was clearly reading a script, and you could see his eyes tracking. When I read a script, I usually have it there as sort of a comfort, and I don't just sit there and literally read it out unless I get lost. So some people work well off a script. A lot of people work well more off of bullet points. You just have to figure out what works for you. It's not like one's better than the other. It's just about what you feel comfortable with. You can print out your notes and use those rather than opening them up on the screen if you feel more comfortable that way. If they're just there for you, just do it however you feel comfortable. Maybe the first few times you don't know, try it different ways and figure it out, and just give yourself a break and know that you'll figure it out over time. You want to, when you're recording Zoom, you want to show attendees how to use that chat window, because as you saw when my audio went out, that was the only way we could communicate with each other. They may not be familiar with it. It works a little differently on a phone, so you might try opening it up on a phone so that you can explain to people you are the tech support. When you're working with people on Zoom, expect to spend some time on tech support pieces, and you might just end up doing less material than you thought because you're going to spend more time fussing around with technical issues and showing people how to use the chat feature, how to take their microphone off mute or whatever. So here's the performance tips. Don't use props. So like with yoga props, you might want to minimize it at first. It's awkward to try to remember what you're going to say and work with props. When I worked with barcode scanners, you'd be shocked how many barcode engineering experts could not click that little button to scan a barcode and remember their script at the same time. So it is difficult to perform with props. I would recommend not to use them. I'm using a PowerPoint slide deck. Don't do it when you start out. It's annoying, it's distracting. You have too many things to learn. Don't use PowerPoint, wait for later. You want to move way more than normal on camera because you're recording motion. Video records motion. We're attracted to motion as people. Move a lot. How you do that is you record yourself normally, you notice the motions that you're normally making, and then you just amp them up. So you watch your own recordings. It doesn't make you vain. That's just how you get good. You want to keep talking. You don't want any dead air. We're not doing any edits. So if something interrupts you, you just need to narrate. Oh, my cat's walking into the room and he's really distracting me and I'm just watching him. And now here he is and I'm going to take him out the door so he doesn't distract me. And now I'm closing the door, because that lets people know that the recording's working, and you just want to narrate. It's like talking to a baby, you just keep talking. They don't, like just so that they hear that there's sound. And then you want to have some water. I know in Iyengar too, in the days gone by, they told us not to drink water while we were practicing. You're speaking, you need to have some water nearby in case you start coughing or struggling with your voice. Questions about performance? I'm kind of flying through this because we have 2 more minutes. Okay. Finally, I want to make sure that you know how to upload it. So I'm going to show you how to upload your video to YouTube. And the main thing is you need a YouTube channel, which you get with a Gmail account. Once you create your channel, you're going to upload the video, fill in the title, the descriptions, the tags, and privacy settings, which I'll show you in a second. Facebook is just like uploading a photo, and the same kinds of information you fill in. When you're done recording with Zoom, when I'm done with this, what's going to happen is I'm going to see this dialog box that we're seeing right now that's telling me that there's a recording that needs to be converted from the native format that Zoom uses into a format that you can actually open with the standard software on your computer. So it's going to take a while. In fact, the one from last night, I think it took me like 2 hours to give me this whole converted recording. You don't want to shut your computer down. What will happen is that it'll save the raw files. They're saved on your computer, and then you have to double click them and it'll go through this process. So you won't lose the recording, but just the best thing is just let it go. So that's what happens after you close the meeting out. This is what the files look like. They're stored in your video library if you're on a PC. I'm not 100% sure how it works on a Mac, but I suspect on a Mac they have a big folder called videos and you just click on that and there's all your videos. The one that is the audio or the video recording is always called Zoom _ and then a number. If I were to pause this and start the recording again, there would be multiple recordings, Zoom 1, Zoom 2, Zoom 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. You also record the audio only, so it's a great way to record a podcast if you want. I just want to let you know we're right at 4 o'clock, and I hate that I'm trying to keep the time exactly right, but if you can give me 1 more minute, I'll run through these settings. When you open up your YouTube channel, there is this is the icon to upload the file. You click here, you drag or select your files through the browser. and then you choose the setting. If you want to sell it, just choose private, and then they can only see it with the link you send them. If you make it public, now it's visible to everybody on YouTube. Once you upload your file, the next screen that you see looks like this. You'll see this processing bar as long as it's uploading the file. And then if you hit publish before it's processed, it'll give you a link, but it still won't be there until it finishes processing. You put in the name of your video under where it says here, my first video, that's the title. And then this box can be a ton of information. I know it looks like it's small, but this is where you want to put all your social media links. Here's a link to the file that I mentioned in the video. You can explain a lot of things. You see this on YouTube all the time. These are the tags. YouTube is a huge search engine. You want to have tags so that people can find it. Questions about this piece? Okay. They have a YouTube.
I have a question.
Mhm.
The tags, I guess. How do you search like to get, better tags,
Search, and you can
more
use
popular?
SEO tools, but the biggest thing when you start out is just like kind of think about what are terms that you would search for if you were looking for this video and use those. Or you can look at other people have similar videos and take a look and see the tags. It's also useful to title your video something that, like, I would call this one using Zoom to teach yoga, because people would look for Zoom and yoga. And if you call it something that sounds cooler, the right keywords aren't in there for people to actually find it. But it doesn't really matter that much with your first one, because I hate to tell you this, nobody's going to find it. There's about a zillion videos uploaded every second to YouTube, and nobody's going to find your brand new channel that doesn't have anyone linking to it or talking about it. What you want to do is get your video out to someone who needs it. You can befriend people with Facebook groups that are big and do something that's valuable for them. Ask them to share it to their group. You can have somebody who has a big social media following and ask them to share it for you if they're willing to do that. It's useful to get to know people who have social media presence. And the big thing is that I just don't think, as we talk about all this stuff, it's like to think about a lot of people liking our videos, but I think that the point of creating a video is to help somebody. And so just send it to one person who you think could really benefit from it. A while ago, we had a number of high-profile suicides in the news. A group of friends and I decided to record a webinar about how to help somebody who is feeling suicidal. Not a lot of views, we didn't get a lot of views on it, but we were interested in the subject, wanted to talk about it. About 2 months later, I had a friend from a discussion board who was far away, who was feeling suicidal, and I shot her a link to that video, and she was really helped by it. So I honestly don't care if anybody else ever sees that video. I literally helped change a person's life with the video I recorded. I believe that what we're doing has power, and I think that whether it's a struggle or not, that we need to keep going to learn these things so that we can help people. I encourage you to keep going. I just want to reiterate the key points that we went through. You're going to start by preparing, having a script or a list of what you're going to do. Then you're going to set up all your equipment. You want to make sure that your camera is still and about face height. You want to make sure your microphone is at a good distance from you so you get the best recording. Test it a few times. Go ahead and set up your Zoom meeting so that you have that all ready. Camera, lights. And the lights. You want bright, diffuse light. Then the next piece is your wardrobe. You want to be all dolled up and beautiful, so you're a beautiful butterfly. Then you're going to get on camera and be this dynamic, engaging personality that's moving your arms all over the place, because that's so exciting on video, and have a great pace. And then finally, you're going to make sure to share your video with someone who needs it so that you can help them. I really enjoyed talking to you. I appreciate your coming here. It was it's been an interesting experience as I work with video. Last night's definitely wasn't quite as smooth as today. And I just like, it'll never be perfect. I've never done a perfect video. So everybody's always learning, but I appreciate that you'll help me to get better. I am available for private coaching, and I have a special for everybody when they start out with me that you can do 3 sessions for $150. And if you want, we can use it for whatever you want in your business. But one thing that we could do is I could help you to actually set up your YouTube channel and give some information about how to use your own equipment so that you can actually get started with the videos. Because if you feel like you've just hit some kind of roadblock. Finally, I just want to share, I keep on saying I'm going to end, and I'm sorry. I'll figure out how to get this right to an hour, Shirley. So I just want to share that hopefully now you're actually going to be able to feel confident, go out and try to shoot a video on your own. Please email me the link so that I can see that you actually, did it. Like the lady today that did that made me so happy to see that she actually did it. And it wasn't perfect, but like that's exactly what we would expect to have the first time. It does get better with practice. So anyway, please send me the links to your videos. Okay, now I'm done. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.